freaking recording, baby. Come on. Welcome back to the 1497 podcast, baby. You know the vibes. It's your boy Jonathan Keaton here. Right beside me is the greatest co-host to ever put his right foot and his left foot on the planet. That is the Michael Wood, aka the Woodster, aka Mr. Wood, aka Eagles fandom leader, the man, the myth, the legend, Michael Wood.
Yeah, you mentioned the Eagles, so I got to start off and say I heard in training camps Jalen Hurts is looking pretty good. So um, I'm feeling confident with the team this year. But yeah, I'm doing good, John. Once again, it's been a little bit since we talked, but how you doing, my man?
I'm doing pretty good, just keeping updated on my Josh Allen love. Just hoping that we make the Super Bowl and we don't lose our fifth Super Bowl. So come on, Josh, come on.
Yeah, I mean, we're both talking football now, but I mean, today is all about the NBA pretty much, except for the end. We'll do a little bit of football, but today we're going to talk about NBA free agency because it's about to get pretty spicy once things officially open up and the floodgates are open. So the first thing we should talk about, the biggest story, I guess, that's been out in the media so far, it's Kyrie Irving and Russell Westbrook. Those two situations kind of coexist. But first, Kyrie Irving and Russell Westbrook. Do you think Kyrie, or just Kyrie Irving alone? Sorry. Do you think Kyrie Irving made the right decision signing with Brooklyn?
Yes, I think he did because you have to think about You have to think about the Brooklyn Nets team, and you got to really look at it. With the James Harden trade, I think they won the trade. If I'm thinking about it, because not only you get what you needed, a big man, you get an extra shooter on top of that, and then you get a guy that can facilitate and play defense. Now, that guy being Ben Simmons did not play a single he did not go on the court once this season. So hopefully that changes for them in the long run because he can really space out the floor and he can be that Luka Doncic. He can be that Steph Curry. He can be that LeBron James facilitating the ball for KD and Kyrie, which would make them a dangerous team. And if I'm Kyrie, I'm sitting here thinking I'm with one of the greatest scorers of all time. I have another guy that can shoot the ball in Seth Curry. I have a guy who can rebound the ball very well in Andre Drummond. I have guys like Cam Thomas that always come to play. I think Goran Dragic was on that team, and Goran Dragic he did good for his role. And then outside of that, let's say if he would have opted out and went to the Lakers, I think that would have been a bad move on his part because then he's back in a position where he has to play every single minute because who's going to be coming in for him? Because once Kyrie gets there, then that contract is going to hit. So then now you're back in the same situation just with new players. So I think he made the right move.
I'm gonna have to disagree with you. I don't think Kyrie Irving's gonna play another game for the Brooklyn Nets. Um, I mean, let's be real. He has sat out more games than he has played with this team. This season, he pretty much made it pretty clear in this offseason that he doesn't want to be there. The main reason, in my opinion, for him signing that is the money. Also, apparently, the Lakers were the only team interested in doing a sign and trade for him, and the Nets were not interested at all, which meant that Kyrie Irving, if he opted out, wouldn't have been. I mean, he would have had to get a lot of money from another team, and currently he just signed his player option for $37 million. And if you look at just the cap space of every team, no team would have been able to outright sign him for $37 million. No team. So the amount of money that he just signed for, no team would have even been able to offer him, which means that they're going to have to obviously be trade packages if you want to get him. So Kyrie got the most money that he possibly could in this offseason, unless teams obviously were to move stuff around later. But as of right now, the Nets were able to offer him the most money that he could have got. So for himself, sure, he made the right decision, but he won't play for the Brooklyn Nets. What he's doing is he's just making it harder for a team to trade for him. I mean, the Lakers could do it because Russell Westbrook's making $300 million this season. Not actually. He's one of the highest paid players, though. But I think he made it harder for himself to get out of Brooklyn. But like you said, if he does want to stay there, good move. They've got Kevin Durant, one of the best players on the planet. Ben Simmons, who honestly is one of the best two-way players on the planet last time we saw him play. So it's not a terrible decision if he's planning on playing, but I don't think he's planning on playing. So for that reason, I have to say that Kyrie made the wrong choice, unless his only goal was to get money,
I
or
think,
obviously to play.
oh, I think he if he did that in that sense of just to get his bread, then he screwed himself, right? Because you put yourself in a position where Brooklyn has to come up with a ridiculous package to sell the teams to you, and on top of that, other teams that are trying to get you have to create ridiculous amount of space just for you to do that. And like you just said, not a lot of teams are going to do that. So I think if he didn't want to play, he would have been like, I'm not opting in. I'm not going. I think KD had a big part of this because KD or Brooklyn is KD's team. So I think he had a little taste, or not a little taste, a little voice in Kyrie's ear as well. But it's going to be hard. He made it harder because no one's going to want to pick up that money, and then people are going to be like, "Well, he got paid because what he produced on the floor. When he was on the floor, he played good. That is absolutely correct. But how many games did he play, and then how many games did he miss on top of that? Because people also have to think if he would have played in more games, Brooklyn wouldn't have been in a situation where they got swept by Boston inside the first round. And as a general manager, you're thinking about that with other teams. You're like, okay, well, Kyrie's the top seven, top 10 talent, but am I going to get that talent 82 straight games despite any injuries happening?
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing, John. As I look here, the players that can be traded just like basically straight up for Kyrie, maybe you'll throw in a pick or two to even it out. It's Steph, James Harden, Russell Westbrook, Kevin Durant, LeBron James, Giannis, Dame, Kawhi, Paul George, Klay Thompson, Jimmy Butler, Tobias Harris, Chris Middleton, Anthony Davis, Rudy Gobert, Bradley Beal, Pascal, Ben Simmons, obviously, but he's on his team, just like Kevin Durant, who I mentioned, Drew Holiday, Kristaps, Devin Booker, Karl Anthony Towns, Joel Embiid. I think that is all the players, and Andrew Wiggins. But like basically every player I named, why would they want to give up that player? The only person I named that I would be like, okay, maybe I do that, or two players, Klay Thompson and Tobias Harris. But yeah, Kyrie Irving is better than those two guys, hands down, no question about it. Kyrie Irving is better.
Off of this season or overall?
Any season you want to look at, any game you want to look at, Kyrie Irving is better than Klay Thompson and Tobias Harris. But what I'm saying is
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't do that deal if I was the Warriors because Klay Thompson is the foundation. Like he's part of that foundation. If they don't have Klay Thompson and they have Kyrie Irving, who says they win that championship? Who says that they win 4 rings in the last 10 years? It just doesn't happen because Klay Thompson has been so pivotal. So yeah, you don't make that trade for Klay. And then Tobias Harris, you don't want to bring in Kyrie and reunite him with James Harden because that didn't work out. So I don't see a trade partner really working for Kyrie Irving unless somehow the Lakers can make a deal with like Russell Westbrook. That's really the only thing I see. So Kyrie might do what John Wall did, and just sit out. Unless he's been fooling us all and he wants to play. I don't see Kyrie Irving playing for the Nets. And honestly, at this point, I don't know if I see him playing this season. I don't think I see him playing NBA basketball this season.
That would be wild if he just took that money and then he was like, you know what, screw this. I'm not about to play, but I'm about to let you guys pay me while I'm not playing. That'd be crazy. But I wouldn't knock it out of Kyrie's window of possibilities because that could actually happen. And then I think the Lakers trade didn't work because the Nets GM is really smart. He's going to want a lot for what he's giving up. Like we said, the praise that we're giving Kyrie right now, he's going to want that praise coming back. Same thing with James Harden. That's why I got Andre Drummond, Seth Curry, Ben Simmons, all for James Harden. And look how that worked out for them. I mean, they did get swept in the playoffs, but those players, besides Ben Simmons, made an impact towards the Nets. So we'll see what happens with Kyrie if he sits out or if he plays all 82 games or if he plays 10 games. We'll see what the letdown is for that. I wouldn't get your hopes up for Kyrie getting traded though.
No, yeah, that's what I'm saying. I don't know. I don't think he's going to get traded. I don't think he's going to play for the Nets either, though. I think he's going to do what John Wall did. That's just my personal opinion.
Mm-hmm.
As I look at it right now, how the NBA stands, teams would have to make different moves, acquire different players to make that trade. But right now, it's not going to happen. But something that is possibly going to happen, Russell Westbrook, is he going to play for the Lakers this year?
Ooh, the way that's a tough question, Mike. That is a tough question because Darvin Ham, he really wants to build Russ back to, or he wants to rebuild Russ back to what he was before. And same with Anthony Davis. But a lot of times when coaches promise things, the general manager above them say, you know what, we're not going to do that because we know what's better for the team. Cough, cough, Cheney bust. So I'm going to say, because I don't want to play two sides here, I'm going to say yes because I think Russ played better towards the end of the season. And Darvin Ham, he saw that in the film because he's watching film, trying to plan on what he's going to do for the upcoming season and all that hoopla. I think Russell Westbrook is going to play for the Los Angeles Lakers again because, like I said, I don't think anyone wants to really pick up Russell Westbrook and trade for him. So it's kind of like, well, you found it, so you got to keep it.
Yeah, okay. So here's what I'm going to tell you.
Mm-hmm.
Russell Westbrook is a starting point guard on 23 out of the 30 NBA teams, maybe more. He's not starting over Steph. He's not starting over Dame. Not starting over Kyrie. That's 3. He's not starting over Ja just because he's the future of that team. He's not going to start over Darius Garland. So, and then he's not going to start on the Lakers. This season, he will not start. If he plays for the Lakers, he won't start. Reason being, he won't play on the Bucks, because Drew Holiday and then obviously Giannis. He doesn't. My point is Russell Westbrook's play style. He's a short, worse version of LeBron James, and I just say that as he drives to the basket. That's how he scores. At least LeBron has developed a jump shot. Russell Westbrook. I think that's the biggest case for Russell Westbrook not really improving his game at all is that LeBron James played pretty much exactly like Russ, just taller in his rookie years, and LeBron has developed a jump shot. So if you're a Russ fan, how can you sit there and still defend the guy when you see a guy like LeBron who didn't have a jump shot develop into like a 36% shooter from 3, and Russell Westbrook hasn't been able to do that at all. So his play style is too drive to the basket for him to be on the court at the same time as LeBron. That's why you saw them having more success when Russell was out at the end of games. Granted, there were a few games like the Houston Rockets game last year where he was the best player at the end of the game and came up clutch. But Russell Westbrook, if he's on the Lakers, will not start. I mean, if Darvin Ham knows what he's doing, he won't start Russell Westbrook. And he mentioned that he said that Russ might have to make some sacrifices if he wants to stay that player that he is. And he mentioned Russ is one of the best players in the history of the game. He's 100% right. Russell Westbrook is one of the best players in the history of the game. But I don't think he's going to be starting for the Los Angeles Lakers if he plays. And if he goes somewhere else, it'll probably be somewhere like back to OKC. And he'll play there, but maybe not start. Like I don't know if I see Russell Westbrook in a starting role this season, whether he's on the Lakers or not.
I think you could make a case for a lot of guards in the league, but that's a different conversation for another day. I don't think they would put in Max Christie at starting guard because if you look at his Michigan State, I mean, I don't think Max Christie did that well this season at Michigan State. I mean, he played okay. It wasn't nothing eye-opening, and he had a couple good games here and there, but I think what they need to do is not start them at point, but you start them at a different position and you bring someone else in that can play the point really well. And no, it doesn't even have to be a top tier guard
Okay,
or
so
top tier point guard. But
so
go ahead.
yeah, I mean just what are you going to start him at? Shooting guard? He can't
Yeah,
shoot.
but here's the thing, though. Here's the thing. For shooting guard, you don't need the shooting guard to shoot all the time.
No, you
That
don't.
shooting guard, that
But
shooting
he
guard
can't shoot. He's not a good defender.
Yeah, but
He's
he's able to drive though, and that's the thing with shooting guards. Because the shooting guards, why do you think Klay Thompson? Why do you think Klay Thompson is so good? Despite throw out his shooting, because Klay Thompson's one of the greatest shooters of all time. But
because he's a good
he's so
defender.
good. Not because of that, because he's so good at moving without the ball. He's so good at moving around the floor that you're constantly
Yeah, yeah.
that you constantly have to mirror Klay Thompson because if you leave him open he's going to shoot it. If he can drive,
Exactly,
he can drive to
exactly,
the basket,
bro.
but he can drive to the basket and still score. Now with Russ, we know Russ can't shoot. Russ can't shoot if his life depended on it. But he can use that off-ball movement to get to the basket, to cut and get points there, and then use his enthusiasm that he has on the court to get those dirty board rebounds and then kick it back out and just constantly move around. But
Okay,
go ahead.
but the Klay Thompson thing, you're right. Klay moves around and he gets shots. The reason he gets shots is because people have to trail him, but they have to be kind of close because he might be able to get a shot, and he doesn't need a lot of space to get off a shot, but he can also backdoor cutting. We've seen Klay do that numerous times. But Russell Westbrook, if he's moving around, you're gonna let him get the ball at the 3 point line. You will let him get the ball at the 3 point line. If he's gonna shoot it, he'll shoot it. Who cares? That's why Klay Thompson is so effective. Russell Westbrook can. You mentioned he drives the ball. Exactly. He needs the ball in his hands to be successful. We can see that with him in the second unit. If the Lakers should start LeBron at the point guard, Malik Monk at the shooting guard, I don't know who they're going to have at the 3 and the 4, but then AD at the 5. I can't see a
I
role.
I don't think you put LeBron at the because I was gonna say put LeBron at the point, but
They won the chip when he was the point guard in
no, yeah, yeah,
2020.
yeah, yeah. But you also gotta like I hate to throw this out there because he played so well last year, but playing 82 games, those back-to-back games, the age is getting up there. Now, obviously, we didn't see that last year, but still, you still want to have a reliable option where you're not having LeBron do what he did last year, and that was the ultimate most. So I think you throw in like you try to get like a Rajon Rondo. I'm just saying this in like a hypothetical world. You get like a Rajon Rondo or a guy that can facilitate the ball and let LeBron do the bare minimum because he's just there to do the bare minimum and at most go off for like a game or two. But I don't think you put all the load back on LeBron again to the point where he's running point. That'd be a good idea though because I thought of that too. I was like that could work. But another thing that I'll say with like the spacing of the floor is he can be the decoy, Russell Westbrook. And the reason I say the decoy is okay, you know that or not Russell Wilson, you know Westbrook is not going to shoot the ball, but you know anytime that someone sees him on a cut, he's catching it and he's dunking it 9 times out of 10. And then if that cutter is not open, because what happens when you cut, Mike? When you cut, someone else
Someone's
is going to be
someone's
open.
going to replace. Yeah, yeah.
Someone else is going to be open. And we've seen Russell Westbrook pass the ball, and he's a pretty good passer. So if he gets the ball and he sees someone else open, you kick it out, whoever Malik Monk, whoever it is, bang, three. Or if that's not open, you're constantly moving around the ball, making it a little San Antonio Spurs, Golden State Warriors ball movement defense, or not defense, offense. My biggest thing is movement, and if you can get Russ to do that and play off ball, and then have him develop a jump shot on top of that, I don't even think you need to bench him. But that's just me. That's just me.
I just the develop a jump shot. He's too late in his career to like really develop a jump shot. I mean, unless he's really working. And Russell Westbrook, I won't put it past him. That guy can work. There's no player. If I had to, actually, that's Russell Westbrook. If I had to pick a couple players from the NBA that I would want as teammates, he would be up there as one of them because he always plays his heart out. He gives his all to the game. But do I think that he can start right now? No. Do I think he's good enough to start? Yes. Just what I'm saying is the way he plays
Mm-hmm.
doesn't work well with the way like LeBron, the team, for example, Steph Curry, that team that the Warriors have isn't loaded. Like by
Mm-hmm.
any means, that isn't a super team. But that team is so perfectly constructed around Steph Curry's play style. Just like Michael Jordan. People will say whatever they want about Michael Jordan, LeBron. LeBron played with more All-Stars, whatever. The reason why Jordan was more successful in the finals than LeBron was is because those teams were perfectly constructed around Michael Jordan. They didn't need All-Stars because of how well it was constructed. And same with the 2011 Mavs. People be
Mm-hmm.
like, "Oh, that team was terrible," and they beat all those teams. They beat the Lakers. I'm pretty sure they beat the Spurs. They beat the Thunder, and
They
then
swept the Lakers too.
yeah, and then they obviously beat LeBron's Heat. But
Mm-hmm.
that team was so perfectly constructed around Dirk. That's at this point in LeBron's career, since AD obviously hasn't taken that next step yet. which who knows if he's ever going to do it and become a number one player for a team that's contending. They have to perfectly construct it around how LeBron plays. And Russell Westbrook is the perfect guy to come off the bench. Perfect guy to come off the bench for a LeBron team, but I don't think he can start. That's just my opinion. But that's enough for Russell Westbrook. Pistons and Knicks are two teams that have been in the media a lot about making moves. Whoever you want to start with, take. I mean, we'll do the Knicks because it's quick. Jalen
Oh yeah,
Brunson
I mean
to the
the
Knicks.
I think yeah. I mean Jalen Brunson wants to get paid, and the Knicks are willing to pay Jalen Brunson. So it's a win-win situation, and you need a guard because the guards that played in New York, they were inconsistent. Let's call it like it is. It was inconsistent play, and bringing in a guy like Jalen Brunson who was also inconsistent, but he showed up in big games, and that's why he's getting paid. I mean, he showed up in Game 6 against the Jazz. He showed up. Who they play? Who they play after the Jazz? They played the Suns, right? The Suns, and then yeah, the Suns and the Warriors. He showed up against the Suns in big pivotal games, and then he showed up against the Warriors. Granted that the Warriors beat them in 6, but he still showed up in some big games. That's why he's getting paid. It's a good move for the Knicks, but in all honesty, I think you need to trade Julius Randle. You can bring any player in. What you can bring in any player, but Julius Randle is becoming a cancer in that locker room. You need to trade him and get rid of Thibodeau.
See, I don't know if I would consider him a cancer in the locker room. I would just say he's not good enough to be a best player on a team. Julius Randle simply is not the he he can't be anywhere and be the best player and that team see success. And you can be like, well, actually, he was the best player on that Knicks team when they were in the playoffs, right?
Mm-hmm.
They lost. And Derrick Rose was the best player when they were actually in the playoffs. Derrick Rose at the age that he was at. So Julius Randle cannot be the best player on your team, especially in New York. I mean, Stephen A says it all the time. The Garden, like, I mean, this is basketball, the mecca of basketball, and your best player is Julius Randle. Are you kidding me? Yeah, I mean, Jalen Brunson, you're not going to bring him in and be like, oh, well, this is our guy. No, Jalen Brunson's a very good NBA player, but he can't be your best player. The Knicks still are looking for their guy to be the guy. They haven't had it since Carmelo, and honestly, Carmelo, he wasn't enough either. So the Knicks, that's a place where you need a Kevin Durant, you need a LeBron James, you need a Michael Jordan, you need somebody in New York. But the fans are still all about New York. Um, but personally, I'm not. Jalen Brunson to the Knicks, it's a move where you're like, oh, that's a good move, but it's not a move that's going to make them champions. It's not a move that's going to make them a top 4 seed in the East. But it's a move where you're like, okay, New York's making a smart move, but nothing that's going to just blow your socks off and you're going to say New York basketball is back. But good move for New York if they do get Brunson. Not going to do anything, but I completely 100% agree. Julius Randle should already have both his feet and his bags out the door.
Literally. And hot take, and I'll explain this hot take because I know a lot of people are going to come at me. Pistons are finishing higher than the Knicks last or this upcoming season. I really love what the Pistons are doing right now, and I really love what the Pistons have. Cade Cunningham. Cade Cunningham, he can't really his shooting is not the best, but in pivotal minutes, this is why I love Cade Cunningham coming out of college. In pivotal minutes, your guy, your number one guy should have the ball. Under 2 minutes, Cade Cunningham had the ball. Cade Cunningham is always making plays. He is always providing that it factor, and he's always putting the Pistons in a perfect position to win. Dwayne Casey. Now I know Dwayne Casey got knocked out of the playoffs a little bit back in the Toronto days, but he was still able to make the playoffs. And I think Dwayne Casey is a good enough coach to the point where he can lead them over a New York Knicks hump. Isaiah Stewart. I really like Isaiah Stewart because he can do one thing very well, and that is rebound the basketball. If you're rebounding the basketball, that's giving you second chance opportunities, and that's giving you, and then defensively, that's giving you opportunities to run in transition. Then you add in Nerlens Noel, another guy who can rebound the ball. Alec Burke, another guy who can step up in the fourth quarter. Who else? Who else did they have? I think they drafted. I forgot who they drafted at 4. Who they
Jade
drafted?
at 5, Jaden Ivey.
Jaden Ivey. a guy that can come in and play the two guard, which you kind of needed. Then you got Isaiah Livers, who shot, I think, like 38, 39% off the three. And then on the New York Knicks, you can't really come at because the last time they made the playoffs, it wasn't the starters who were producing. It was the bench. The bench. Evan Fournier is inconsistent. Julius Randle is just a terrible leader. Julius Randle plays too much ISO ball that I think I'm playing 2K or that I'm watching a 2K game. I mean, the list goes on and on and on and on. Pistons are finishing higher than the Knicks
And
next
I'm
year.
100% on board with that. I think Kate Cunningham's going to make a big leap. Also, Luca Garza is a guy who can play NBA minutes as long as
Not
Nerlens
well.
Noel on that team is going to be. He's one of the best defending centers in the league currently. I mean, and you. I didn't even mention Isaiah Stewart, who's another one of their centers. Kelly Olynyk is also on that roster. But then the worrisome part for the Pistons is the forward position. I know they got some rookies, but currently
Mm-hmm.
just on their roster that are not rookies, haven't signed yet. You got Marvin Bagley, Sadiq Bey. Sadiq Bey, great player. Marvin Bagley, still kind of we're looking for a little bit more from him. So the
Mm-hmm.
forward position is where it's going to be worrisome. But then guards, this team has some guys. I'm You got Alec Burks, who's technically a shooting guard, but he can play the forward. You got Cade Cunningham, Hamidou Diallo.
Mm-hmm.
Carson Edwards is on this team, which I just found out about a couple of days ago. He won't play, but cool to see that he's on the team. Saban Lee, he's made some steps. Rodney Magruder is a guy who we've seen play big NBA minutes before. They also have Kemba Walker, who probably will. They'll
No,
probably
they have Kemba Walker now?
yeah, they'll probably buy him out.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, Kemba Walker is on that team. So they have their guards loaded. And Cade Cunningham is a big guard. So really, you don't need a big shooting guard. I think Jaden Ivey, Cade Cunningham, that's a nice 1-2 punch. Maybe Alec Burks at the three. You go Sadiq at the four. And then Luca Garza, you go Luca Garza, Isaiah Stewart, or even Nerlens Noel at the five. That's not a championship team right now. But a core, I mean, Sadiq Bey, we saw him put up 50. This is a team that can be very good in the future. And honestly, I see them finishing in the seven, like somewhere in the seven range next season in the East. So yeah, I completely agree that the Pistons are a team not to look out for, but if you're the New York Knicks or teams on the fringe of playoff spots, those are the teams that have to look out for the Pistons. But obviously, the big dogs don't have to. But yeah, completely agree that the Pistons will finish higher than the Knicks.
If you're the Pistons GM, do you go after Miles Bridges?
No.
I was thinking the same thing. I was just thinking the same thing. Do you wanna take the rope first or?
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. Miles Bridges, he had like this was the best season of his career.
Mm-hmm.
And not to say like, oh, well, one season, whatever, it doesn't mean anything. This season means a lot. But and he is a younger player, but I just think what they're building there, you don't need to get him. You don't need to. He honestly isn't like he's a decent defender because he's got size, he can move a little bit. But I would Sadiq Bey and him are honestly close to who's better. I know Bridges. You look at his counting stats, you'll say, oh well, he had a pretty dang good season. Yeah, he did. But if I'm the Pistons, I don't think because he's going to want a lot of money. He will want a lot of money, and I don't think that you need to waste your money on a guy like him. Bridges is good, but he's not good enough to get the money that I'm assuming he's seeking, which is probably like 30 million. I don't think you give up 30 million to bring in Miles Bridges. I think it's interesting, it's intriguing, but I also don't think the Pistons are going to do it. I don't think they'll do it, but we'll see. Hopefully they don't, because I do think they're building something special there, and they'll get a big time guy when they need it, when it's time, when it's championship time. But right now, it's not championship time in Detroit.
I hope they don't either because Miles Bridges is putting up great regular season numbers. That's why he's getting paid the regular season. Now go ahead, get your bread, bro, because you deserve it. Everyone deserves the money that they're striding towards at the end of the day. But he did not, let's not get it twisted now. He did not play good in both of the play-in games to get into the playoffs that they have played in. And that's where the cherry on top is for me. I don't really think that you need to mess up what this team is doing right now because yes, they're young. Yes, they might make mistakes, yada yada yada, blah 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 blah. But those guys in games where they're closing out games against the Atlanta Hawks last year, who made the playoffs, by the way, against teams that I gotta think of. There's a whole bunch of games that were close with teams that were at the 500 mark or over 500, that I don't think you destroy that right now. And I think there's other players that you can go after besides Miles Bridges that you can be like, hey, we still made a good we still made a good we still made a good deal. Because at the end of the day, what does Miles Bridges do that's good besides finishing?
I mean he's like an average. He's a little bit above average scorer, but everything else I would say is like average, slightly above or slightly below. Like
Exactly.
he's a very good player, but I wouldn't. He's probably a top 10 small forward, but I don't think he needs to be added because he's a guy where if you're paying him 30 million or however much you're going to pay him, because Andrew Wiggins got like 30 something 31 million, I think, and he was the second best player on the championship team when the time counted. I don't think Bridges is that guy. You said it with the play and stuff. So yeah, I 100% agree. It's not a movie you need to make.
I'm 100% with it. 100% with it. Detroit, just don't do it.
Yeah.
Just don't do it. He's
And
a
then
good rapper though.
obviously we're going to talk more free agency, more NBA, like who's where, what fits where, as the time comes, as it starts to open up a little bit more. But now we talked about a little bit of NFL in the beginning. Let's end it with a little something. We don't really have a name for it, but we're going to pick. I'm going to name a player and then name a player to go up against him, and you're going to tell me who you would rather have, and I'll tell you who I'd rather have. All right. So would you rather?
Ooh.
T. Higgins is the standard. T. Higgins.
Ooh.
Michael Pittman.
T. Higgins.
I agree. Darnell Mooney.
T. Higgins.
T. Higgins, I agree. Hunter Renfrow.
Hunter Renfrow.
I still got to go T. Higgins. Mike Williams.
T. Higgins.
I'm going Mike Williams. Deontay Johnson.
T. Higgins. That's
I'm going Deontay Johnson.
Huh?
Marvin Jones.
T. Higgins.
T. Higgins. Yep, correct. DK Metcalf.
T. Higgins. That's not.
Yeah, I'm going DK. And then the last one is I'm going DK over T. Higgins. Okay, the last one, T. Higgins or Amon-Ra St. Brown.
I need to see more from Amon-Ra St. Brown, so I'm going T. Higgins.
I'm also going T. Higgins.
DK over T. Higgins? What?
DK?
What?
DK Metcalf.
DK is the most overrated player that I've probably ever witnessed in the NFL.
Well, apparently T. Higgins is now. He's apparently a top 10 wide receiver.
He's top 15. He's not top 10 yet, but he's top 15. DK is not even top 15. What has DK hasn't really done anything to really make you say, oh, well, DK is a good wide receiver. I mean, he had, I think it wasn't last season. It was the season before. So 2 seasons ago, he had that good season. So now, once you have a good season, you're looking for the next step. And he had 2 seasons to do that, and DK hasn't done that. And then who else? Who else did you say?
I said I would rather have Mike Williams, Deontay Johnson.
Oh yeah, Deontay Johnson. Deontay Johnson has had spent like top 5 in drops the past 2 seasons. Anything that comes his way, he is dropping it like Santa is dropping presents in the chimney. I just can't put my trust in Deontay Johnson right now because he is dropping more ball, or he's dropping more passes than a teacher is dropping knowledge.
Deontay Johnson was top 5 in catches and top 10 in receiving yards. Numbers don't lie, but I guess your drop number also doesn't lie. So that was a good one. Lots of question marks. We don't really know. We'll see though. T. Higgins has a big season coming up. I think it's expected he'll perform pretty well, and all those guys I named, I think, are also expected to perform pretty well. Especially the one you had the biggest problem with, which is DK. DK has to perform, show that he's the best player on that Seahawks team. So it'll be interesting. But John, that's all I got today.
Thank you for tuning in to Lovely 1497 podcast. If you like the podcast, which I hope you do, like and comment on our videos on YouTube, then subscribe to our YouTube. But better yet, subscribe to us on all podcasting platforms. And then go over to Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. Follow us there at 1497 Sports. We will be back. It's Jonathan Keaton and Michael Wood, the best duo to ever do it. Later. Oh, trust the process, baby. Trust the process.